rural and first-generation college students, helping them find confidence, voice, and purpose through English. He often reminds us implicitly through his work that language is not merely spoken, it is lived. This belief aligns seamlessly with environmental communication, where words must grow into awareness and awareness into responsible action. As William Wordsworth beautifully said, "Come forth into the light of things, let nature be your teacher." As so, Reverend Dr. Maria Arakera's life and pedagogy quietly echo this philosophy. Father holds impressive academic qualifications, including MA in English, MHRM, B.Ed, and PhD in English. His interdisciplinary background, spanning science, philosophy, theology, education, and language studies, has shaped him into a holistic thinker and reflective educator. His doctoral and research interests focus on language immersion and curriculum development. Reverend Dr. Maria Raj was one of the great pillars of Bosco Institute of Information Technology, Elagiri Hills. He played various roles in Secondary College, especially as IQAC member, head Department of English, and additional principal. He has guided MPhil and PhD research scholars in a meticulous way. Currently, Father is the principal of Don Bosco Arts and Science College, Chennai. Despite his administrative responsibilities, he has never distanced himself from teaching. He continues to engage with classrooms, learners, and teachers because for him, leadership begins with listening and learning. Father Maria has authored 7 English textbooks for undergraduate students, many of which are used as bridging and communicative English courses. These books reflect his strong belief that language teaching must be context sensitive, learner friendly, and socially relevant. He has published extensively in reputed journals, presented 25 papers at national and international conferences. He served as a resource person in seminars, workshops, and FDPs and offered consultancy services across India and abroad. Yet, what stands out is not merely the number of publications, presentations, or consultancy, but the clarity of purpose behind them to make ELT more humane, meaningful, and transformative. What makes today's session especially meaningful is that Reverend Dr. K. A. Maria Raj is not only a scholar who speaks about environmental values, but also a nature lover who lives them. He is known for nurturing plants and saplings in his office space, transforming it into a living, breathing green corner. These plants are not decorative objects, they are silent teachers, reminding everyone who enters that growth requires care, patience, and responsibility. This personal commitment to nature gives authenticity to his engagement with environmental communication. He demonstrates that environmental awareness does not begin with slogans but with small, consistent actions. I am very glad to state that Reverend Dr. K. A. Maria Raj represents a rare and inspiring blend of dedicated teacher, insightful scholar, visionary leader, and committed nature lover. His life reminds us that environmental communication begins with personal integrity, grows through education, and flourishes through collective effort. I strongly believe that Reverend Dr. Maria Arekerat's experience in L2 immersion, curriculum design, and learner centered pedagogy equips him perfectly to address this intellectual fraternity with clarity, practicality, and inspiration. With deep respect and warm appreciation, I take great pleasure in inviting Reverend Dr. K. A. Maria Arekeraj to enlighten us with his insights on environmental communication in ELT. Welcome, Father.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your wonderful introduction. Now let me invite Father Maria Arekaraj to address the gathering. We welcome you, Father.
Thank you so very much, Madan. So respected patron and co-patrons, respected conveners, Professor N. Aruldas, head of the Department of English, Shift 1, and Dr. Mary Jeneff, head PG and of Shift 2, the organizing secretaries, Professor V. Madan Kumar and Professor Saravanan, distinguished scholars, esteemed participants. Good evening to all of you, and I welcome you for this 5 days of FDP, Faculty Development Program, on the title Interdisciplinary Research in English Language and Literature. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for having me here. It is my pleasure to be with you and then to share some of the experiences that I have gained in my journey of this ELT. Dear friends, I thank you all for joining for this evening session. And I'm really glad and also grateful to my previous place of my job and work, Sacred Heart College, where 13 years of my stay has been a very fulfilling one, and I feel so happy that I was part of this great family. I owe many of what I have learned and what I'm going to share to this great institution. Once again, thank you, Professor Madan, for taking this initiative. Thank you so very much. Dear friends, environmental communication in ELT. Why did I choose this particular topic for this evening's session? Environmental communication in ELT, as soon as you hear this, the subject that speaks directly to the moral, educational, and ecological imperatives of our time. When the choice was given to me to choose the title for my this reflection or thought, I chose this. The simple reason is, for the past few years now, more and more I am becoming little concerned about what is happening around us and in and around our country and in other countries. It is terrific. As I was just reading, to prepare this, there was something that was very shocking. In the past 25 years, all the natural disasters, if you take and then count, the experts say that 91% of all these disasters are man-made, where we, the human beings, we have been instrumental in this. These are man-made disasters, where 1.3 million people have been affected, rather not affected, they are dead. And more than 4.4 billion people have been injured because of all these disasters. I say it again, man-made disasters. That is one of the very important reasons why I selected this. The reason is simply this. I'm not simply an English teacher. Yes, English is my passion. I would like to teach it. I love when people speak well. Yes, but I'm not just a teacher, but I'm an educator. Now, what do I mean by an educator? An educator is a one who sees the 360 degree of of the learner. And more than anything, that which is threatening the life of people on earth, that is the environment, that is being degraded by the greed of the people. Therefore, I, as an English teacher, as I said, more than being an English teacher, an educator, I would like to bring this perspective to English language teaching. That they learn English, yes, of course, but they also learn to live in harmony with the nature, where we don't dominate, where we don't do things which will actually undermine the importance of the nature that is around us. Dear friends, this is the real reason why I chose this. We live in an age marked by unprecedented environmental crisis, climate change, ecological degradation, biodiversity loss, and environmental injustice are no longer distant or abstract concerns. They shape our lived realities and determine the future of human and non-human life alike. Dear friends, any education cannot insulate itself from the ecological responsibility. I would like to play a short video that will set the tone for this evening's reflection. Kindly allow me to share this particular video. It is just a 2-minute video. Let us just watch it.
2025 will be remembered as the year the climate crisis stopped knocking and kicked the door right down. Across continents, nature unleashed its fury. Record-breaking storms, catastrophic floods, raging wildfires, and deadly heat waves pushed communities to the edge. From South Asia's devastating monsoon floods that swallowed towns and displaced millions, to powerful cyclones tearing through coastlines in India, Sri Lanka, and the Caribbean, the human cost was staggering. Mountains collapsed under torrential rain, forests burned through historic heat, and cities struggled to cope with disasters arriving back to back. Scientists warned these were not freak events, but part of a dangerous new climate pattern driven by warming oceans, rising temperatures, and increasingly erratic weather systems. Even the economic damage ran into hundreds of billions of dollars, overwhelming emergency services and exposing deep vulnerabilities worldwide. As climate extremes become the new normal, the question is no longer if disaster will strike.
2025 did not begin quietly. It arrived with swollen rivers, unstable mountains, and heat already pressing down on the land. By the time the year ends, it will be remembered as one of record-breaking storms, devastating floods, raging fires, and deadly heat waves. From the Himalayas to the tropics, from Europe's forests to North America's firelines, the climate made one thing clear. Extremes were no longer exceptions, they were the pattern. Because if 2025 was this fierce, the question is no longer if the next year will be worse, but how much worse will it be?
So, dear friends, the particular video that I played, it actually puts us in the right spot. Now we understand where we are. It is now time that we become not just English teachers, but real educators who will move beyond the traditional boundaries and respond meaningfully to the urgent call for sustainability. Dear friends, today I just invite you to reflect on how English language teaching, one of the most globally influential educational practices, can serve as a powerful site for environmental communication, ecological awareness, and ethical transformation. So that's how we need to understand the topic for this evening's discourse. Now let us ask this question. Why this conversation matters? Why? Of course, I just told you, it's my personal interest in ecology. And as Ms. Anto introduced very rightly, I'm a lover of nature. And more than that, when I see things, going, beyond our control, and we are being controlled completely by nature, and the evil effects of this climate change and the after effects of it, it is really terrible. So when we teach English, why not we teach them about our mother nature? Why can't we learn? As we learn English, let us learn also about sustainability. That is the first reason. And we saw the global crisis. And as I said already, 91% of it all, it's all man-made. Everything starts from the climate, the carbon footprints, people using the nature, rather abusing nature, especially the fossil fuel. All these actually, as it is said, nature is there for our need, not for our greed. Unfortunately, this has set a sort of an unstoppable chain. This climate change and the ecological degradation, which is the effect of our abuse of nature. And as an educator, it is our responsibility to educate our learners. It is an ethical responsibility. And why we as English teachers, language is a powerful social force, because it is the language which actually makes us to express, and it is through language that we get the concepts inside, we get the knowledge inside, and also we are able to also interact with others and with nature. And that is the reason why we as English teachers, we are very much privileged to take on one side the language, on the other side also the natural, the nature that is around, to take the nature to the people, make them to love it, and then to preserve it. That is the reason, dear friends. Well, ELT in the 21st century. ELT is beyond just grammar and fluency, and it is much more than vocabulary, communicative efficiency, all that. It is much more than that. In fact, this interdisciplinary nature of integrating the environmental communication and ELT, it goes hand in hand, and it is not something that is new. It is there from the 1960s. It is already there. As it is put there, communicative language teaching, CLT, content-based language teaching, content and language link, okay, learning, language learning. All these are connected to this. Dear friends, in communicative language teaching, it is put as two versions of language. There are two versions, strong version and weak version. As we understand, what is the strong version and what is this weak version of the language? When we say weak version, it means learn to use it. That is, learn the language to use the language. It's like what we do as English teachers. What do we teach them, the learners? We teach them the language directly, and then the learners are able to now, listen, speak, read, and write the language. Yes, that's fine. But we need to move from the weaker version to the stronger version of the language. It is said, use it to learn it. What do you mean by that? Use the language to learn it. In our parlance, it is called English medium. Now, what do we mean by English medium? We study, let's say, physics, we study chemistry, we study many other subjects, like, let's say, even history. All these we study everything in English. And what is the focus? While studying in English, we study and we learn the content, but also we learn the language. So on one side we learn the language, on the other side we also learn the content. Dear friends, it is already there from the 1960s. It is already there. Of course, we have content-based, language teaching, content and language, CLIL. We know that, integrated learning. All these are there already as a sort of a history of when you go through language learning, all the methods. I'm sure we have gone through all these. And the interesting thing is, the language that we learn unconsciously, the first language, that we learn it unconsciously. And we develop our learning, we develop our worldview simply by listening to words, by imbibing them unconsciously. In the same way, when we use English and when we learn about this, environmental communication, we unconsciously, we imbibe the thoughts and also the worldview changes. And ELT cannot be, somewhere put on a pedestal. It has to come down. It must mix with the day-to-day life. It should mingle with the day-to-day life. Only then ELT can be truly, it can be socially, it can be considered to be responsive. It has to be responsible. So ELT can actually make this happen. So dear friends, we are to move from the skills of simply listening, speaking, reading, writing, vocabulary, all that, these skills, they are not just sufficient. We need to move to something which will transform our lives. It will make a change in the learners. And that is the way to actually sustain this planet, dear friends. The next one is, what is environmental communication? What is this? What do you mean by environmental communication? By environmental communication, we mean the study and practice of how language, discourse, narratives, symbols, and media shape human relationship with the natural environment. It also actually includes scientific communication, environmental activism, policy discourse, cultural representation of nature, and everyday ecological narratives. Dear friends, As Cox tells us, environmental communication is not merely descriptive, it is constitutive. Now, what does that mean? Language does not simply reflect environmental realities. No, they don't simply capture things or tell us about the realities around us. Rather, it actively constructs how we perceive, value, and respond to the natural world. This is the insight that it has a profound implication for ELT, dear friends, because language learning is inherently a process of meaning making. And this is the point that I would like to make here, dear friends. Okay, language is not simply that helps us to communicate with each other, but rather it helps us to make meaning. So when environmental communication enters the ELT classroom, dear friends, language becomes not simply a tool for communication, but it is much more than that. It becomes a means of ecological engagement and social responsibility. Why environmental communication in ELT? Why? Why do we have this environmental communication in ELT? First of all, dear friends, English as a global environmental language, it actually speaks so much about the reality. Dear friends, we know very well, English as a language of research, you know that more than 76% of all the latest researchers are published in English. Anything new under the sun, it is in English. So all the, the top level conferences, the top level workshops, the top level inventions, when they are actually brought to the world, everything is in English. And that is the reason why we say English is a global environmental language. It actually gives us the meaning. As we go further, we'll see more. The climate policy, the science activism, all these, everything is in English. And ELT is also, it's a gateway to global participation. That is the reason why we say anything that you want to know new, anything that is the latest, things are available in English. Therefore, learn the language. That's how we tell the students again and again. Dear friends, here, when we speak about environmental communication in English, in ELT, English language teaching, we are actually linking language learning with the real world issues. These are not simply issues, they are actually, it is more an existential crisis that we have. What will happen to this world? What will happen to the human life? It is a real existential crisis, dear friends. So it's a beautiful opportunity to link language learning with the real world issues. Now, what is this ELT and social responsibility? Again, it has been already talked of. Language education, it is not neutral. Now, what do you mean by neutral? Language neutral means we don't take sides. We put things as it is there. No, absolutely no. We say it cannot be, we cannot have we cannot have a neutral position with regard to language education. We need to take sides. Especially we need to take our side with the nature, because it is the nature that is sustaining us. Therefore, we need to sustain this nature. So that is the reason why, dear friends, we have to have what we call, we need to take positions, because all the international climate negotiations, sustainability reports, scientific publications, and environmental media, they are predominantly conducted in English. And also, we need to take sides, ideological sides we should take. So English circulates within networks of power, history, and inequality. Therefore, integrating environmental communication, it aligns with ELT with education for sustainable development, dear friends, and positions language teaching as a socially responsive practice. So in this sense, dear friends, we can say ELT becomes not merely a language acquisition, but also a platform of cultivating environmentally responsible global citizens, dear friends. Now, let us just go into, since it is research, it is interdisciplinary research, I thought we can dwell for a little time on this theoretical framework, that which supports the entire environmental communication in ELT. So what are these? So I just look at these. I just look at these as the framework. The first one is actually eco-linguistics, language and ecology. Now, what is this? Eco-linguistics, it was first articulated by M.A.K. Halliday, and later it was also developed by Aaron Stubbe. Excuse me. How language influences ecological relationships. And dear friends, if we know some of the terms which are used in this, it is interesting. You see how terms are used, like natural resources, economic growth, development, rapid development, corporate world. All these are all in English. All these are all in English, and all these words, all these vocabulary, they encode assumptions that prioritize human profit over ecological balance. So eco-linguistics urges us to question these narratives which are set. Will come little later down, you will understand more, and imagine alternative discourses that sustain life rather than deplete it. So in ELT, eco-linguistics empowers learners to critically examine environmental language and to reconstruct narratives that promote sustainability, interdependence, and ecological ethics. So, dear friends, there is a lot of connection between the language that we use and the meaning that it has inside. And these are set by all these kind of influential people. And we get carried away by these kind of terms. And what is this eco linguistics in ELT? Dear friend, this in ELT, eco-linguistics encourages learners to critically analyze environmental language. They also identify destructive and beneficial ecological narratives, reconstruct alternative discourses that promote sustainability. Thus, dear friends, eco-linguistics provides a critical lens through which language learning becomes ecological consciousness rising. That is, as they learn their language, English, they also learn the importance of ecology, and that we should become conscious of this nature that is around us, the nature that is sustaining us. And now we need to reciprocate this particular love and concern for the nature which is nurturing us. And the second one is about critical discourse analysis. This critical discourse analysis, it was put forth by Fairclough in 1995. And what is it all about? This particular idea, this particular concept, it examines how power, ideology, and inequality are embedded in language. They're all put into language. And dear friends, another good thing that you should remember is when we apply this to environmental communication, this CDA, that is critical discourse analysis, reveals how environmental discourses privilege certain voices, that is, certain governments, corporations or corporates, global entities. They voice their concern, but unfortunately, or the marginalized communities, their ideas, marginalizing the indigenous communities, the poor, and here they use a beautiful word called global south. Now, what is this global south? Global south is South America, Africa, Asia, oceanic countries, mainly, for example, other than Australia and New Zealand, all these countries. Once upon a time, all these were colonized. So the colonization has that effect still. Because of its underdevelopment, it has got this. Therefore, this critical discourse analysis will help us to understand whose voice are heard, whose voice are silenced, and in what way we need to fight for justice on one side as we learn the language. Dear friends, also this critical discourse analysis and environmental literacy. Now, what does that mean? It simply tells us, dear friends, about one particular word will be good for us to know. We are now speaking very much about Aravalli range, which is actually connecting the 4 states in the north, Delhi, Rajasthan, all these states which are there, and what is happening there. How this particular thing changed. The definition that they gave, they said the mountain ranges which are below 100 meters of height are not considered as hills. And then it is open to mining. And the Supreme Court upheld it. The government gave this and the Supreme Court upheld it. But later, thank God, because of all these, the activists, so many of them, and they challenged the government. They challenged the Supreme Court as well. And now they have given a halt. Now they just paused it. The Supreme Court's judgment has been just paused. They have not given further any verdict. But for now, it is stopped. That itself, people say that it is a very, very positive thing. Because we are critically now, we need to question. Critically, we need to question. That is, we need to analyze climate change reports, corporate sustainability rhetoric. They speak and speak and speak. They almost make you believe all that they say is all true. But we need to use our critical thinking, dear friends. Media representations of environmental crisis. Such analysis fosters critical environmental literacy, dear friends. It enables learners to question simplistic or hegemonic narratives of progress and development. Why should there be an education for sustainable development, ESD? We know, my dear friends, this ESD, Education for Sustainable Development, goes hand in hand with SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. Now, how are these two connected? SDG and ESD, these two are connected. How are they connected? So UNESCO, that is the education wing of UNO, it has actually come out with the knowledge, skills, and values which students especially should imbibe so that they can make the 17 SDGs possible. In fact, next we are going to talk about it briefly, about the 17 SDGs. Because this is what actually gives us the holistic and interdisciplinary learning. So dear friends, this actually tells us to examine the entire environmental text critically, understand the policies and the politics of environmental representation, question the dominant narratives of development and progress. By incorporating this CDA and ELT, they become a critical environmental literacy where learners are empowered to challenge hegemonic and environmental discourses, dear friends. Now, let us just go over. These are very important. And at the end of this discourse, this particular, few reflections, I just want to tell you something interesting. As I was just going through this, I said we must write a textbook, that is environmental communication in ELT. How nature, this environment could be used to teach English. So I just in fact want to use all these 17 SDG code, okay, SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, in order to teach English. So I'm planning to write a book actually on this, and I would be happy to share with you, all those who are here in this FDP. I will be more than happy to share a copy with you. Okay, if you register, kindly give us your addresses. We shall definitely get it printed and send you the printed copies, okay, after it is done. So let us just run through quickly and let us understand what are these 17 SDGs. Though this is not very much, this is the underlying foundation for this entire talk actually. So there are 17 of them. What are these? Just 2-3 lines each I just run. Number 1, the first SDG, the first Sustainable Development Goal. I hope you understand what is the background. In fact, in 2012, in Brazil, in Rio, this particular meeting was organized where the task was set to develop this sustainable development goals. And in 2015, in New York, when they had the sitting, UNO sitting with all the member countries, this sustainable development goals, 17 of them were proposed, and all these goals have been accepted by the body, by the members, all the members. And the goal is for 2030. So they want to achieve these goals by the year 2030. Of course, it is very ambitious. We do not know whether it is possible. But what we see is that there is something very positive that is happening. But without our cooperation, nothing can happen. Especially we, the English professionals, I call professionals, more than just researchers. We can make it possible. Number 1, first goal, no poverty. Eradicating poverty in all its forms remains one of the greatest challenges facing humanity. Still, too many are still struggling for the most basic human needs like food, clean drinking water, and sanitation. Progress has been uneven. New threats brought on by climate change, conflict, and food insecurity mean even more work is needed to bring people out of poverty. So this goal wants to end poverty in all forms and dimensions by 2030. Number 2, the zero hunger. In spite of the rapid economic growth and the increased agricultural productivity, extreme hunger and malnutrition remain a huge barrier to development in many countries. So this goal wants to end all forms of hunger and malnutrition by 2030. making sure all people, especially children, have sufficient and nutritious food all through the year. Number 3, good health and well-being. Good health is essential to sustainable development. We see the widening economic and social inequalities, rapid urbanization, threats to the climate and the environment, the continuing burden of HIV and other infectious disease, and emerging challenges such as non-communicable diseases. Universal health coverage will end poverty and reduce inequalities. And number 4, quality education. Though primary education has grown across the world, progress also been tough in some developing regions due to high levels of poverty, armed conflicts, and other emergencies. Children from the poorest households are 4 times more likely to be out of school. Disparities between rural and urban areas also remain high. The goal ensures that all girls and boys complete free primary and secondary schooling by 2030. Number 5, gender equality. Ending all discrimination against women and girls is not only a basic human right, it is crucial for sustainable future. It's proven that empowering women and girls help economic growth and development. Sexual violence and exploitation, the unequal division of labor and domestic work, and discrimination in public office all remain huge barriers. Encouraging more women leaders, dear friends, will help achieve greater gender equity and equality. Number 6, clean water and sanitation. Water scarcity affects more than 40% of world population, and it is projected to rise just like the temperature is rising. Also, they say water scarcity is going to rise. It is affecting every continent. In 2015, 4.5 billion people lacked safely managed sanitation services, and 2.3 billion lacked even basic sanitation. So by 2050, it is projected that at least 1 in 4 people will suffer recurring water shortages. Number 7 is affordable and clean energy. As the population continues to grow, the demand for cheap energy also grows. An economy that is reliant on fossil fuel is creating drastic changes to our climate. And in fact, dear friends, use of oil, coal, natural gas, all these are really plunging us deeper into deeper crisis, dear friends. So investing in solar, wind and thermal power, improving energy productivity and ensuring energy for all is vital if we are to achieve the goals that is set out by 20. We have to achieve this by 2030. Excuse me. So number 8, decent work and economic growth. We see slower growth of economy, widening inequalities, and not enough jobs to keep up with the growing labor force. According to the International Labour Organization, more than 204 million people were unemployed in 2015. And the goal is to achieve full and productive employment and decent work, especially for all women and men by 2030. The 9th one, industry, innovation and infrastructure. Investment in infrastructure and innovation are crucial for economic growth and development. Mass transport and renewable energy are becoming even more important, along with the growth of new industries and information and communication technologies. Especially in developing countries, dear friends, bridging the digital divide, it is crucial to ensure equal access to information and knowledge, as well as foster innovation and entrepreneurship. And the 10th one is reduced inequalities. Income inequality is on the rise. The richest 10% of the population of the world, they have 40% of global income, whereas the poorest 10% earn only between 2 to 7%. These widening disparities require sound policies to empower lower income earners and promote economic inclusion of all, regardless of gender, race, or ethnicity. Facilitating the safe migration and mobility of people is also key to bridging the widening divide. Number 11 is sustainable cities and communities. More than half of us live in cities. They say that by 2050, 6.5 billion people will be urban. The rapid growth of the cities is a result of rising populations and increasing migration. Making cities sustainable means creating career and business opportunities, safe and affordable housing, and building resilient societies and economies. Number 12, responsible consumption and production. We need to urgently reduce our ecological footprints by changing the way we produce and consume goods and resources. The efficient management of our shared natural resources and the way we dispose of toxic waste and pollutants are important targets to achieve this goal. Number 13, climate action. There is no country that is not experiencing drastic effects of climate change. The annual average economic losses from global warming and climate related disasters are, dear friends, in the hundreds of billions of dollars. Between 98 and 2017, I said 1.3 million people have been killed and 4.4 billion have been left injured. Limiting the increasing in global mean temperature to 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels requires urgent and ambitious collective action. Number 14, life below water. The world's oceans, the temperature, chemistry, currents, and life drive global systems that make the earth habitable for humankind. Oceans also absorb 30% of carbon dioxide produced by human beings. So this goal aims to sustainably manage and protect marine and coastal ecosystems from pollution. And 15, life on land. Human life depends on the earth. Plant provides 80% of human diet. And we rely on agriculture as an important economic resource. Forests cover 30% of Earth's surface, an important source of clean air and water, as well as being crucial for combating climate change. Urgent action must be taken to reduce the loss of natural habitat and biodiversity. And number 16 is peace, justice, and strong institutions. We cannot hope for sustainable development without peace, dear friends. And of course, we need to have stability, human rights, and effective governance based on rule of law. Armed violence, sexual violence, crime, exploitation, and torture are also so much prevalent. This goal aims to significantly reduce all forms of violence and work with governments and communities to end conflict and insecurity. And the last one, partnerships for the goals. So it simply says we cannot achieve this alone. If we want to achieve this, we need to work with people, we need to work with governments, we need to work with corporates, we need to work with all the interested agencies, and we as language, okay, citizens, the people, I mean the language experts and researchers, we can do a lot with this, dear friends. Now, let me just go to this constructivism learning theory, that is the framework. Okay, just quickly we can just see this. This is we know very well what is constructivism. Constructivism says that we learn language, we also get the knowledge through interaction and dialogue, that's all. So knowledge also, it is constructed, through our language it is constructed, and we need to learn, and become active participants in this. Of course, the person was behind it, that is Paulo Ferrer, his approach, and he views education as a practice of freedom and transformation. Ferrer, that is the proponent of this particular theory. The second one is actually pedagogical, that is environmental communication across skills. Now, here you see, now only we are talking about what we say LSRW. How we can use this, how we can use, using LSRW. I just prepared, dear friends, a lesson plan I've just prepared where we can use this environmental communication to acquire all the 4 basic skills of any language, that is LSRW. Kindly allow me to share this lesson plan with you. I hope it is clear.
Yes, Father, it's clear, Father.
All right, thank you so much. So this lesson plan, it is at the basic level. It is for the beginners. So the theme is, I have just chosen the 13th SDG, that is the climate action. I just chose this. So the target skill, I'm going to just run through it just to see how all the LSRW skills can be learned. So this is a basic level. This is for the age group of 17 plus, and it is for about 60 minutes. And the method that I am just employing here, okay, it is CLT, communicative language teaching. All right. Of course, we can have all the pictures, audios, blackboard, and worksheets. All that we can have. Now, what are the objectives? So the language objectives, by the end of the lesson, students will be able to listen and understand simple sentences about climate change, speak short sentences about protecting the environment, read a short, simple passage, of course, related to this environment, write a few sentences on climate action. And what is this awareness objective? The students will be able to understand the meaning of climate action. And also the students will be able to identify simple actions to protect the environment. The second is actually the warm-up activity. It can be for 10 minutes. The skill focuses on first speaking. So the teacher, it shows off, the teacher shows the pictures and pictures related to smoke from factories and floods and drought. And the teacher asks simple questions. What do you see? Is this good or bad? And the students answer the questions, using single word or short sentences. Tree, smoke is bad, flood is dangerous. And what is the outcome? The students become comfortable speaking simple English sentences. I'm sorry. And the third one, from here, we can go to the listening activity. The skill focus is listening. What is the input? The teacher reads aloud or plays a short audio, maybe for a minute. Maybe it could be something like this. Climate change is a big problem. The earth is getting hotter. Smoke, plastic, and cutting trees cause climate change. We must change the earth. Maybe simple, very simple sentences. Now, the teacher can read this slowly, and the teacher can read twice. And now the teacher can ask yes or no or one word questions. Is climate change a problem? Of course, the answer is yes. Does cutting trees help the earth? No. And what does the students do? The students listen carefully to when the teacher reads, and they silently read, and then they also answer orally. They also start answering. And what is the outcome? The students understand the basic spoken English related to that particular topic, that is a climate action. And the fourth one is speaking activity again. Simple oral practice. What is the teacher expected to do? Write sentences, sentence frames on the board. We should save trees. We should stop plastic. We should save water. Maybe these are, of course, the teacher will model the pronunciation, and the teacher can, allow the students to, add, we should save trees. We should save water bodies. We should save the ozone layer. So the students can keep adding more and more words. Maybe for the beginners, the words can be given on top, and they can choose the words and place them in the place where trees, plastic, and water. Then they can, that is the way they can make them. Or, substitution tables are there, dear friends. We know very well, though it is age old, still it is quite relevant here. So use the substitution table for here, and then we can make the students to write as many sentences as possible. They can speak it out, write it, and also they can speak it out. And the students, they repeat the sentences first choral, all together, and then individually, and say one sentence about climate action, where the students are asked to do this. As a result, students gain confidence in speaking, at least starting from small, very short sentences. And the fifth one, reading activity. I just, got this done. Okay, it is long. I'm not going to read the full thing. So give the text, make them to read. The teacher can read. Make the students to listen. Maybe the teacher can read according to the level of the students once, maybe twice, even the third time. Make the students to read it again, maybe as a group, choral reading, then maybe individually. Then once people go through it all over again and again, give them the comprehension questions. Maybe the 5 questions can be given like this, maybe. And then I just put it here in Tamil also, just to, the vocabulary, the key vocabulary that the students should learn. They learn the vocabulary, and then they know the meaning of it, and they also know the vocabulary in their own mother tongue, or they should understand. So understanding is more important. Of course, we can be bilingual, no problem. It also helps. Of course, there is a debate as to whether we should be bilingual, but bilingual especially for this kind of things, it is very, very helpful, dear friends. So these are the key vocabularies I just picked up, and then we put it, and then also the Tamil meaning is also given there. Then what does the teacher do? I already said, the teacher will read aloud, explain difficult words with examples. Of course, the vocabulary is presented above. I just put it there. And the students also read silently. They do the silent reading, and then they answer questions. We are given 5 comprehension questions. We are given. And then what is the outcome that is expected? The students improve basic reading comprehension. And the writing activity, of course, the most difficult part of it, it takes a lot of time, for writing, but still this is the way, because we have given them number of sentences, making them to repeat again and again. So with this, maybe the students could be invited to write maybe simple 5 sentences, maybe 2, maybe 3. And we can keep, increasing the number of sentences. Say, like, for example, even giving them this kind of prompts, climate changes, we should not. So leading questions can be given, and then we can make the students to work on this. Okay, right. So the students write independently. The students practice basic sentence formation. And then, dear friends, what is this assessment? Of course, these are formative assessments just to know whether the students have understood. So we can have oral responses. making them to speak something, making them to read, making them to answer, making them to write, and also their participation, their interest in participating in the class in this environmental related issues. So based on this, the assessments could be done. Of course, nothing is over without a homework. Maybe we can ask them to draw a picture showing climate action and make them to write few sentences, based on the diagram, the picture. And the expected outcomes, the students will understand simple English related to climate action, use basic vocabulary and sentence pattern, develop environmental awareness, and participate actively without fear. So these are some of the expected learning outcomes. I'm sure it is possible. All right, now the students, once they now go tangibly into listening, speaking, reading, and writing, as much as we are interested, the students are also equally interested. Therefore, dear friends, this is a sample. This is a sample. We can definitely use it in order to. Okay, so this is where we left, and we saw the LSRW skills, how we can actually enrich the LSRW skills among the learners that we saw just now. So it is possible, all right? And there is one more thing, they speak about project-based. Now, what do you mean by project-based? Making the students to do something, they learn by doing, and which they are able to write as a report as well. Now, that is what we call the project-based, and it is also task-based learning. We can link these two ideas can be, okay, community environmental projects, as this picture we can see, this kind of, where awareness campaign, where students are asked to, go and campaign, go maybe conduct a rally and all that. And the research-based language tasks, it is also can be, how we can integrate this language with language teaching, the content and the language. So all these things can be really be very useful. And the real world language use. So what we are learning in the classroom, we take it to the real world. And what we hear in the real world, what we learn, we bring it to the class. Okay, that is the way how we develop critical thinking, and also we also question. And the cultural and post-colonial perspectives. Now, when we talk about this post-colonial perspective, dear friends, what is the idea behind it? The idea is like this. Previously, the colonial powers, they set the agenda. They brought everything, to us, and they taught us their worldview. They thrust it on us. So the indigenous, the local customs, what we have, our understanding, those things are being thrown out. Now it's time to bring back. I'm happy that we have what you call the Indian knowledge system. The government comes down very heavily on this. It is maybe a blessing in disguise, where we are going to discover our indigenous heritage. Definitely it will be something good. So where the local environmental narratives should be taken. And as I said, global south realities as to, why they have thrust upon us, and they made us to believe that they were all that we have, that they're all wrong, or they're all, irrelevant. But unfortunately, now we realize more and more that we have had our own wisdom, ancient wisdom that we do have. So we need to rediscover them. And decolonizing the ELT content. Now, we know very well that in ELT, the content, everything, it's actually from the West that they give. So we take it as it is. Now, what we can do it is that we need to adapt it for our situation. That will be helpful for us, for our students, keeping their background, their need in mind, that we need to work on this. And the next one is about the digital media and environmental communication. Dear friends, so much of material is available in in our social media, especially in the internet. So much of it is available, and everything everything is in English, or rather most of them are in English. So we could use these kind of podcasts, documentaries, digital storytelling, all these we can actually bring them all into our classroom. So where the students are able to learn, they are able to learn the reality. So dear friends, this is something that is available to us, which was not there previously. Now everything is at our fingertips. Everyone has a mobile where people can have access to all these, and people can become more and more aware of what is happening around, which is actually possible. They not only, for example, I used to advocate BBC News, for example. I used to advocate BBC News, which is available 24 hours. So I used to tell the students, when you listen to this news, you listen to the English news. You're going to listen in English. Besides, it is 24 hours, 24 by 7, and which means you get to know what is happening in the world. And BBC is more or less more neutral. So I used to say, you're going to listen to the language with a good pronunciation. You can learn good vocabulary. In the same way, dear friends, we as teachers, as ELT specialists, we need to go through and then find out which is safe for our students, which is apt for our students, which will also take into account our own narratives. It is very important. With this, actually, we can enrich, and the students can be made to be lifelong learners, because all these are all available, where they can be learning at their own speed, at their own place. Okay, anytime, every place they can. And we allow the students to make use of this digital media for their learning and their awareness. It is possible. But dear friends, all these have their own challenges. What are the challenges? For example, limited teacher training. It is something very interesting. It is 3-4 years back, Tamil Nadu government came out with English workbooks. It came out with English workbooks, and the titles were like this: English for physical sciences, English for life sciences, English for commerce students. So it came out with several books. I was very happy. I said, good, nice, let us use it. So I called the communicative English department. I said, we need to teach this. This is good. But only when we opened it, we had a little confusion, little doubt. Who should teach this? Should a physics teacher teach? Should a chemistry teacher teach this? Or should a biology teacher teach this? Or a commerce teacher should teach this? Or an English teacher teaches this? Who should teach this? Because you have everything related to those subjects. For example, he talks about velocity, he talks about acceleration, it talks about banking of curves, it talks about all sorts of things. Now, should an English teacher learn all these and then go and teach, and that way teach English? Is it possible? Is it possible? Definitely it is not possible. It is not that easy. You cannot be learning something that you have not studied, and then that you are learning that too technical, very, very technical, you cannot. In fact, that particular book, though according to me, it's a very good book, but unfortunately, very impractical. This is my opinion. Very impractical because a normal English teacher, an ELT person, cannot use it in the classroom. It is difficult. You cannot read and explain technical things. We cannot do that. So here, there is one advantage for us. See, this environment is common to everyone. For us, earth is important for everyone. The sea, the ocean, the river, the pond, the lake, the trees, the living organisms, all of them are important to all of us. And we know something about all these already. Therefore, it is not difficult for us. We can teach the teacher trainees. Of course, to a certain extent, we can teach. We cannot be teaching all the, the implications and great technicalities. We don't need to teach, but enough that we know something that is impacting us, that which is touching our life every day. With that, any teacher can teach. We can teach this to any teacher training. And the next one is curriculum constraint. You know very well, any teacher, you ask them, did you do this? You see, we have listening, we have speaking, all these are all there in English. Do you teach this in the classroom? They'll say, sorry, no time, I have to complete my syllabus. So especially when we are going to implement this, people will say that time is not sufficient. Therefore, the curriculum must be, lending itself to be used in the classroom. Then the assessment difficulties. Assessment difficulties in the sense, how do you assess their LSRW skills and other skills? Sometimes it can become difficult. A simple, ordinary, one story, one just question and answer, it's very easy. But it is little difficult, but it is not impossible. Definitely we can do. And institutional resistance. Now, what do you mean by institutional resistance? It simply says institutions are not ready. The institutions want the students do well in their examinations. Naturally, they insist with the staff members to be more syllabus oriented and make sure that the students get good marks. That is their main aim. They don't see the bigger picture, but they are satisfied with the minimum, and which is beneficial for them immediately. That is what you see difference. So all these can be overcome once people have a balanced view of the nature of the environment around us. And what is the implication for the teacher education and research? Of course, the eco-linguistic awareness in the teacher training is really, it will be wonderful. It will be wonderful. It will make them to be, integrated with nature, integrated with the people, with the problems, with the real-time problems around us. And also, it will encourage interdisciplinary collaboration with other agencies, other institutions, with other governmental agencies, also with other institutions of those who show interest. And also they can work with like-minded people in the class. They can work. It will be really very good. We can work with a technical person, maybe. We may be good in the language, but a technical person can help us to bring the latest to the people, the content on one side and language on the other side. All right. So our models, it will be content specific ELT models. Okay, that is new models that we can come out with. Of course, those, I'm sure quite a number of you are doing your doctoral research. This could be something very interesting, dear friends. That will be very, very fruitful and very satisfying, because you are doing something not only for yourself, but it is going to reach a bigger crowd. You are going to join hands with the global, activists in this. Now, we need to, in that case, rethink, reimagine the purpose of ELT, dear friends. Because, as I said right at the beginning, ELT cannot be insulated. It cannot remain on a pedestal, but it has to come down, and then ELT should become more, you know, and ethics. It must be taken to the students, that the people see ELT as not simply as something of language learning, teaching, and learning practice, but it is something much more than that. That is integrating with life itself. And as we said, we need to have this language for sustainability. What we were talking about, the 17 SDG goals. Okay, all these language can help in taking this, communicating the right thing to the people, and this will make the learners to become global citizens, not just be, you know, caught in a small web and within a little small space, but we'll be joining the global world, the global citizens, people who think about the world, think of the other people, think of our future generations. And naturally, education will be for the ecological futures. And the final reflections, as I see, dear friends, what we teach really matters. And how we teach, it also matters very much. And why we teach, it matters much more. And finally, we can leave with this statement: language can sustain life. Today, especially in the, in times of this crisis, language can also help in sustaining life, especially coming out of this vicious circle of, exploitation, and then where we work towards sustainability. So thank you for your patient listening. And if there is something that we can reflect together, you're most welcome.
Dear participants, the session is open for discussion. You can raise your questions. Yes, we shall still use the chat box.
Can I just ask you, see, among the participants, has anyone used environmental communication in the ELT field? It will be interesting to hear your experience.
Good evening, Father.
Good evening.
Yeah, I think what you said is very much possible in the schools. We do integrate subjects with English and science and social science. So whenever you integrate with social science and science, and we have only one possibility is nature and environment. So there we've asked the students to write letters to editors. Sometimes we ask them to create poems based on the observation of, try to bring a link between science and social science. But we have not particularly done it like ELT specific. We have used English, but not in that research oriented.
Okay. That's good. Could you identify?
But yeah, I'm Cruz. I'm Cruz Anto Brilliance, working in Pune, BK Birla School.
Okay.
Okay. Sir, and one more thing, don't you feel that this is very much possible in all the languages? It is not only in English. When you talk about sustainable development, since we all are English teachers, so we cling to that English, even if we.
Absolutely. What you're saying is absolutely true, sir. From ELT, you can remove that E, put
Yes.
you can put any other letter there, no problem. You can put it, you can put it. Definitely, it is possible. Mrs. Gayatri from Kingston Engineering College. Yes, sir, I have given some activities to my students in the aim of communication development on the topic like pollution, etc. Exactly, ma'am. That is exactly the point. What you have said is right. It is pollution. Definitely, that is one very big area. It is exactly the same. Yeah, it is possible. Can we make it full-fledged?
Father, how about slow learners, Father? Is it more appropriate for the advanced learners, I believe?
So
Could
it is
you suggest
our
some ideas?
imagination. What you're saying is, it is our imagination to definitely bring it down to their level. It is possible. Definitely, it is possible. And that is the reason why when I prepared that lesson plan, I used it basically for the slow learners. For the slow learners, okay, we can even further, we can bring it down. Start using very simple vocabulary, construct a few sentences and give it to them. Maybe in the beginning be bilingual, say the meaning also maybe in their mother tongue, and write this particular sentence so they know that this is the meaning. And then make that with the same words, we can make different sentences. So it will make them also, it will go also like what we say I+1 level, it will go so they can begin to. It is possible. It is possible, though all the terms, all the vocabulary are very high sounding. It is true. What you're saying is true. But it is possible, definitely.
Yes. Thank you, Father.
Yeah, Cruz is nicely pointed out. For slow learners, we can ask them to prepare slogans or posters. Yeah, why not? Okay, then someone has also said, yes, I'm planning to base almost all my activities henceforth related to ecology after attending the FDP. Thank you for giving a model of your lesson plan. Can't wait to implement such things in my classes. Wonderful, wonderful, Mrs. Gayatri. That is wonderful. That is good. That will be really good. I would like to reiterate what I just said during the talk. I am planning to write and bring out. Maybe it is when it is ready. Maybe Madan sir, I will give it to. I'll give it to you people. You can send it to the people. Those who are attending, we can do.
Yes, Father.
Okay, Mr. Saravanan has asked this. Um, suggest some other approaches other than lexical. Okay. Unfortunately, Mr. Saravanan, English is lexical, whether you like it or not. English is lexic. So definitely it has to be there. Words will have to be there. Without words, there is no language. So you can also use other playway methods and all that you can use. You can definitely you can use, but that will be just only the beginning. Okay, that will be only the beginning. We can very creatively we can do so. Say we have the dumb charade, right? The game like the dumb charade. We can make use of even Damshara.
There is one more question.
Yeah.
From Madam Nisha Marudavel. Could you please answer it?
Yes, sir. Sorry. Could you please elaborate on the research scope of this topic? Okay. What is the research scope of this topic? See, it is, first of all, it is interdisciplinary, sir. First of all, it is interdisciplinary. And the thing is to bring the content and the language together. And as I said already, that content-based language teaching, CBLT, for example, then content language, okay, linked integrated language teaching, for example, all these are all methods which are already available, and you can make use of this. Now the content is going to be different. Your researchers can be how creatively you are able to bring this down, and to at what levels can we use. That will be a very creative work, it will be, according to me, especially if you go for an experimental study. And then if you are able to use it for, let's say, even primary, secondary, and for example tertiary levels, if you're going to use them at different levels, I'm sure, dear friends, you will be made to bring it down to ground level, to a very base level, how you are able to build. It will be very challenging. It will be very interesting, and it will be very challenging. And I used to tell people always, when you do a research in literature, it benefits you. But when you do a research in ELT, it benefits not only you, but it also benefits the student community. In the same way, when you're going to do this kind of interdisciplinary research, especially keeping the environment on one side and then language and bringing them together, creative forms, you have to come out with creative forms. How we can, make it very effective. Your research will be in that. And an experimental research would be really wonderful. Experimental research would be really wonderful. So that could be the scope of this. And as and when anything new, new findings are coming, we can make use of everything. We can make use of everything for language teaching. And in that way, you can go on creating lessons. You can go on creating content. It will be really very interesting, according to me. Nisha Marudavel. Hello, Father. In this AI-driven world, everything is available online. Very true. It is available online in chat GPT, like, okay, boards. How can we make language teaching interesting for advanced learners? Okay. Ma'am, what I feel is the limit is only our creativity. How creative we are. See, when we get to know the students really very well, when we know what the students, and that is the reason why, post method era, what is the thing, very well. What is post method era, very well. That is after all these methods. It is the teacher who takes all the available methods, all the methods, or whatever methods liked by the teacher, or the teacher feels that this will be very helpful for the students, because you know the students, their background, their experience, their future needs, all these you know very well. So when you know all these, you choose the methods and you pick and choose. It's like a buffet. You pick and choose what you want. This is very good in this method. Yes, this particular aspect is very good in this method. Yeah, repetition is very good. Yeah, visualization is very good from this method. All right, here, communication. All this you take from each method, you are going to take something, put them all together, and then you come out with your own method for your students. This is actually what we call post method pedagogy. Post method pedagogy is just exactly this. Now, here comes madam, what you say is absolutely true. Anything is possible. Okay, I can just give the same lesson plan. I can ask them to ask the chat gpt to create similar ones. I can definitely do, but all these things will be just only a guideline for us. But when you go down to the classroom, you have to use your own creativity. You know very well what the students like, so you need, that is your creativity is the limit. I think you can definitely do. Take any help from any AI tool you can take. But when you take it to the ground level, it is not the AI driven, but what you are going to drive. That's what is very important. There is something, one more.
Yes, but
How can for the Francis Vincent Adler. Don't you think that English poems have a special contribution to environmental sensitivity? Absolutely, you're right. Absolutely, you're right. Only thing is that whether you can make use of them for teaching. The point here is English language teaching, ELT. So you can definitely, if the poems are really good, and there are so many beautiful poems, there are beautiful poems, they can actually be brought into ELT. If you think, and if you're able to creatively, if you're able to use it, wonderful. Wonderful. You can make use of it. Definitely, you can make use of it. Then, how can we present our teaching, Habiba? How can we present our teaching in a way that touches students' hearts and shapes their character? So, your question has got the answer already. Okay, first know what are the things that will touch the hearts of the students. You know that, you know very well what things touch. The things that touch the hearts of the people are something close to them. It should be something close to their experience. I just tell you what happened this morning, for example. There were some policemen, the assistant commissioner of police had come here. The person was speaking to the students. The students were all, they were talking among them. The minute he started speaking about the experience, how because of an accident, how a young person died, how the family has been shattered completely, there was pin drop silence. These are all what we call real stories, real life touching, incidences. These things are immediately, something that is close to the students. You know very well, and especially little children, stories, they love it. They love it. You can make use of all the things about a tree, say about a fruit. You can bring them together and then make a story out of it. That's what I said. Your creativity is the end. Making them to be. It's like, for example, the story of the old lady and the vadai that she makes. So I used to tell people like this: why should we make only vadai? Can't we make burger? Why only old lady must prepare vadai? Can't a young lady prepare? You just put these questions, then people start thinking differently. Can we also, Ms. Gayatri says that, Father, can we also suggest certain literary works like that of short stories or novels related to ecology for developing English language and give them that as assignments? Wonderful. That is exactly, ma'am. See, these are the creative ways in which you can do, ma'am. Definitely. That also will be very good. You can definitely do and give them an assignment for students for internal marks. Will that be helpful for SDG? Absolutely. Absolutely, it will be helpful. Absolutely, it will be helpful. So we need to buy. The book fair is on. We can go find very good books are available. We can give to the students. It will be a very creative way of doing it. Wonderful.
Are there any more questions, dear participants? You can still post your questions in the chat box. Father, there are two questions to be answered.
Yeah. Kritika. Okay. That is a good, nice, good question. It's related to assessment. Okay. See, when it is assessment understood, it is language based. But language cannot exist in the air. So the language must be concretely, it must be based on the content, right? So the content could be, according to me, it could be environmental communication. Assessment should be based on the content. Not, we don't ask questions like, explain the phenomena of climate change. And no, we don't ask such kind of questions. Maybe too technical it becomes. Maybe if we can give them some kind of, let us say, some hints and ask them to write, maybe that also can be used. But as English teachers, we are conscious about the language. Language rubrics must be very clear. But it can, as I said, concretely, it could be environmental content. Is it the next one is a content or fluency? The age-old debate to go for fluency or for content. See, we can try to build content and fluency as much as possible. Fluency is the end. It is the end result. That's what we want. So the way we go through is the content. But fluency, according to me, both are important. Normally we speak about fluency and accuracy. Here you are talking about content and fluency. I say both are important. Yeah, Mr. Cruz has given a sample poem, Keeping Quiet. That's good.
Madam Sophia Rani has raised a question, Father.
One sec, sir. Okay. That's an interesting question. How authoritative are we in handling certain complicated environmental issues? You're right, ma'am. Definitely, we cannot be authoritative. At least we know some basic things that we know. Clean water, okay, hygienic sanitation. This there are certain things that we know very well, and also we see how rivers are polluted, how wastewater sewage enters the river, how people are, now recently, a week back, 2 weeks back in Madhya Pradesh, for example, how people drank the polluted water, contaminated water, and people died. At least the news says that about 8 people died, but they say more, but we don't know about that. So these are some of the things that we know very well. So we can begin with what we know for sure before we go for, let us say, ozone layer, a hole that is there in ozone layer, or with some other thing. Let us begin from what we know, that which is touching the students. For example, dirty water, can the students drink? So start from there. Clean water is important. Telling them, urinating anywhere and everywhere, that is our national pastime. So tell them that this is how it is affecting when it is entering the water bodies, how it is going to affect. Simple things, all these things will help, according to me. So we don't need to go and discuss mm, big things. What we should add in to make the thing alkaline, all those things we do. Simple things that what we know, begin from there, I would say.
Are there any more questions, dear participants? Thank you for your response. We still have time.
There isn't anything, you can close.
Yes, Father.
That's it. One sec, there is something.
Yes, Father.
Pavitran, should we focus on providing an ecological classroom, like having plants, fish tanks? That's wonderful. That's a beautiful suggestion, Dr. Pavitran. That's a beautiful suggestion. That's a beautiful suggestion. That, without speaking, what you have, the plants and the fish tank and the things like that, without we speaking, it will speak. It will speak. I used to say, since we can't go and sit in the garden for a long time, I bring the garden into my office. I say it that way. That's a good suggestion, Dr. Pavitra.
Yes, thank you, Father. Thanks for your patient response. Shall we close the session in that sense, Father?
Sure, I think if there isn't anything else to be spoken.
Yes. So the feedback link and attendance link is ready. It will be posted by Professor Saravanan. Let me formally conclude the session. So I sincerely thank Reverend Dr. K.A. Maria Arekaraj for his detailed and thought-provoking session. Many of the ideas that you have shared were alarming, And really, you have foreseen the future. Thank you, Father. Thank you for enabling us to see what's going to happen in the future. And I also extend my sincere thanks to the head, Professor N. Arundas, and Dr. Mary Jennifer for their constant support, and also the faculty members of the department. And a special word of appreciation to all the participants. You were wonderful today. And I also thank Professor Saravanan for his constant support from the technical side. So the second day gets over today. Kindly post your attendance and also submit your attendance and also the feedback through the link. And we shall meet again tomorrow for the third day of the session. So thank you. We shall wind up.
Thank you. Thank you again. Thanks for your patient listening and all that you people have shared. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Father. The feedback link is posted in the group. Kindly fill it.